at that point, I remember there just being a breaking point where I was like, I am not a good mom. I cannot tolerate my kids. I am losing my shit. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't parent this way. I am like screaming at my kids. I am like unwell, right? Because I'm like so stressed. I'm so bored. I have no friends. I have nothing to do every single day. Can't even go to the gym because I have nothing to do with my kids, right? So I'm like unhinged.
Your nervous system is on frickin' overdrive.
Freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And so at one point I just said to Trevor, I was like, I have to go. You know, we had been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, I have to fucking go.
You're listening to Breaking the Ice podcast, a podcast that I created in 2020 to connect women within the hockey world. My name's Devin Dodaro, my husband's Charlie Dodaro, and we've played literally all over the world. We have 2 kids, 2 dogs, and let's just say hockey has taken my world by storm. What I've learned is that this community and these experiences are very specific, and you should not have to go through this alone. Through this podcast, I share the tools, resources, do's, don'ts, and what's helped me along the way while continuing to learn from each and every one of you. So lace them up and tune in for episodes twice a month. And make sure to follow the page on Instagram at Breaking the Ice Pod. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited for you to listen to this episode. It is a long one, so buckle up. But I truly loved every minute just being in the moment and having this conversation with Ellie, and also listening to it back. It was just so nice. I just felt so validated personally. We have a lot of similar experiences that we have gone through, and I knew when she was sharing this that so many people would be able to relate to this and just feel kind of that solidarity feeling of, okay, I'm not alone. Like, this is just one of those episodes where I feel like a lot of people are going to feel very heard. So I appreciate her so much for being so vulnerable in this episode and, you know, truly just sharing her story and how it's affected her, their family, and where they are now and how they kind of got to where they are now. We cover a lot of ground in this episode. She shares about their European hockey journey, you know, living situations, team accommodations. We talk about just having kids abroad and mental health when you're struggling with your mental health, when your husband's struggling with his mental health, and how that can just kind of affect the overall dynamic. We chat about financial pressures, which honestly, you guys, this is not talked enough about. And I think having this conversation made me realize, okay, I think this is something that I kind of need to dive into more on episodes, because you can feel very alone with that financial stress of like, okay, hockey's not forever, but what's next for both of us? Like, that's a lot of pressure on you as an individual and as a family unit. So we talk about that and just that career uncertainty that you can experience when you retire. We talk about post-retirement, that transition, and she also offers advice for other people, you know, that might even be just entering this lifestyle and what she might have done differently if she knew. So all around, this is just such a good episode. I am so excited to hear your feedback. Put your headphones in, go for a walk your dog, walk your baby, and just enjoy and just know you are not alone. If you're going through a hard time, there are other people that are right there with you, even if it doesn't feel that way. So I hope you find a little bit of peace in this episode. I truly enjoyed it. It was just such a good one. So enjoy. Well, welcome to the podcast. Retirement episodes are always really highly requested. So I am just really grateful that you're willing to come on, share your experience, and I know it will help a lot of people feel less alone in that process if they're currently navigating it, or it's something that might be happening in the future or in the past that's just, you know, kind of a challenge. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I want to kind of start off like a little bit from the beginning in terms of like, because I know you guys have been in Europe.
Finland, Sweden, Germany.
Okay, why did I feel like you wrote Vastervik? Is that not in Russia?
Vastervik is Sweden.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna clip that out because people are gonna be like, "You dumb bitch! You don't even know what that is." Okay, yeah, you've been kind of all over the map in Europe. So when you guys first went over to Europe, I'm assuming that was like pre-kids, and then life has changed. So let's kind of just get a kind of a rundown of like what life looked like when you guys first got to Europe, and then we'll dive into all the
Yeah.
little.
We first went to to Västervik, which is like a really small town in Sweden. When right before we got engaged, right? No, we got engaged like a month before we went there. And Trevor and I have been dating since freshman year of high school. So that was like 10 years into our relationship, just to put that in perspective.
Wow.
And we were there for about half the year. It was a nice experience. It's super interesting. I think most people that have been there can vouch. You're like on a resort that's closed in the winters. Super
Oh,
weird. So like you're in like a cabin on like a deserted resort. Super
interesting.
interesting. There were like a few North Americans. We had a positive experience there. And then like halfway through that year at like Christmas time, Trevor got like loaned to the SHL, to Rogla, which was like compared to where we came from, it was like going, like from the coast to the NHL in like a day. Like, and not, I don't mean in terms of like play, but I mean in terms of like the rink and the vibes. It was like crazy. We were like in this like, like dinky little car, tiny town, like a rink that was like basically an indoor outdoor rink to like, like you have a box, you have it was probably like in terms of like places we played, environment, like probably the coolest place we played. It was really cool. It was really fun. We were like downtown there, which was a really cool city on the water. And that was fun. It was just like kind of a whirlwind, just to get like plucked out when in your first year, you don't really know what you're anticipating, and you kind of like settle into that. You're like, I guess this is it, and then you show up and we were just like, oh my gosh, pretty crazy. After that year, we went to Finland, to another super interesting town, which is like conveniently like an hour and a half outside of Helsinki. And we still didn't have kids then. That I got pregnant there in the fall.
Okay.
And there were me and one other import, Shannon. And she like came and went, but she was the best. But we really like made the most. When you say like you have one really good person and then you can like kind of tough it out rather than like a bunch of people that you don't like really resonate with. Like we just did everything together.
Totally.
Super
All you
fun.
need is one person, really.
Yeah,
Like
all you need
one.
is realistically, yeah. I'm just like you have one person that like you like really love to the core, like then you can survive
Yeah.
that. And like it was just like an interesting town, but we had a lot of fun. And then that summer, that halfway through that year was COVID, 2020.
2019, 2020 season.
So Finland was like one of the last leagues to like close that year because they're like a little more isolated. So there wasn't as much like travel. It was fine. They like really held out for a while there. Super weird time, to be like pregnant and abroad, and the whole thing was odd. We went home, and I had my first kid, Felix, at home in July. And then Trevor left to go back to the same, like we went back to Kouvola the next year. And that was still super weird and COVID-y. Another year there, and like it was enjoyable, but we like knew people in other leagues that had like, in Germany in particular, that are like loving life, like doing so much. And then like once you have a kid, you're kind of like, you just need more, right? So it was like me and Shannon, like a baby, out in Kouvola. So that's when we kind of like tried to make that transition there. We've like had a tumultuous journey of like, no matter how well you do, you're always like waiting, we've never like been the kind of person that gets like, lucky is not the right word, but like blessed with a like straightforward off season, which like I feel like you have had like somewhat of a similar, it's just like you're just like kind of no, like you could have your best year ever and you're still just kind of like, what, like why are we sitting here in June, like fiddling our thumbs? So that's kind of is what happened, and you get into that territory where you like know you want something else but you've been offered something of the same. I feel like that's happened to us so many times where you're just taking a risk
Mhm.
to turn things down. And when you have kids, the risk is different, like, because like to wait and like to not be, like making money and like to like have that unknown is like just like the stakes are higher.
Totally.
So obviously with additional kids, it's more complicated.
It's a really important piece that you just said, because it is interesting, because you usually have like a European agent who's kind of dishing you out to all these different teams, putting feelers out. Like you're like, okay, we're okay with Finland, Sweden, wherever you're interested in going. And they're kind of like coming back to you with possibilities. And it's like this, like you said, once you have kids, it's a stressful situation of like, is this the best thing that's going to come? Do we
Yeah.
turn it down or do we take it? And it's like that limbo. And like, I think men as providers feel that, additional stressor to be like, what if I don't take this offer and nothing else comes along?
Yeah. Well, and then like just the whole trajectory of it becomes more complicated, right? Because you sign where you have interest and then you're like, I have 2 kids and a dog and I'm pregnant and, like the whole thing. So that first
They're
year
like,
we went to Wolfsburg. And I think we ended up like really holding out there as well. And we had heard great stuff. I mean, it's just like weird when you go to a new country. I mean, like we've done it a lot of times, but like a lot of people just like go to one territory and they stay, right? Like one area. Finland and like Scandinavian countries are so different than Germany, especially where like Wolfsburg is, which is like more northern Germany, like less English speaking. When we got there, and I had heard like I had built up Germany in my mind like so much, about like the people and the like not the people in Germany necessarily, but like the community and and then you're like somewhere different and it like in Wolfsburg, there was like apartments where like all the families were together and they were like very sought after. And Wolfsburg has like a lot of long-standing people that have been there. And then like me and Lindsay Archibald, we were like new with kids of this exact same age. We were put in these apartments that were just like not it. It was just like visually hideous. It was just like, when you show up somewhere and you're just like, holy fucking shit, this is not what I came from this like Scandinavian like apartment and then house, like tiny house, but like with a yard and we had a sauna and you could like walk places and we arrived there and they put us there because it was big, but it was just like not it. So I had this like momentarily like panic in which you like are just like, you build something up. And I am like probably like Trevor's worst nightmare. Like I don't settle, like not in like I'm a pretentious person way, just like this isn't going to work, and at that point I was pregnant again.
So third time.
Second.
Okay, second time.
So
Okay.
I was due in the winter there. So like we were up like 3 flights of stairs with no elevator, nowhere to put the stroller on the first floor, 2 dogs, a 16-month-old, and I'm like 30 whatever weeks pregnant. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like scavenging, like we don't have anything else. I found a house. Like I found it myself. And I was like, we will pay the difference. Like I'm not staying here. So like that made a huge difference.
Sorry, for those listening too, I don't think a lot of people know that you can actually do that, and teams will often accommodate that. If you are truly unhappy or not satisfied with your living situations, teams will sometimes be open to like you said, splitting the difference, or like if you can find something similar to what they're already paying, like they will sometimes allow you to do that, because we've been in that situation.
Like don't like complaining and not doing anything, right? So if I'm going to sit around and bitch about this apartment, I'm going to find something else. Because it's not my personality to not like do it. Like I'm going to do what I want, which is probably a little bit obnoxious. But on the same note, like I'm not going to complain about it and not try to make a difference. So that made a huge difference, especially just like with having a second kid. And I had Millie in Germany. And then we re-signed in Wolfsburg, I believe. And it was a little bit of that same situation where like Trevor had a really good year and we were like, let's go to a bigger city and let's try to blah, blah. And it just like didn't come. And it was like just kind of one of those things where it's just like weird mentally to like go through those things when you're like, what? And then you like see other things and it's just like a comparison game. And it's not even anything you're doing. So it's kind of a weird vibe. It's like a weird situation.
So tell me more about that though. So tell me more about like those feelings for you. Like take yourself back to that time where you're like sitting there and you just, it's like, are you feeling like an unhappy?
You're riding like this high from like their career, right? Because it's like you feel so interconnected of like, wow, that was like a career year. Then to like go into the off season and being like, I would like to go to like one of these bigger teams. Like that had always been something Trevor wanted to do, was like go to like, not that Wolfsburg isn't, but like one of the bigger teams in the Dell, like a bigger city. Like, cause we had always said like, we just want to like get to like a big city. Cause like we didn't ever.
Yeah.
So and then you like get into the off season and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Nothing. And that just like factually and not like with an ego or like factually, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
In that season. And I'll say like there are other seasons where maybe that does, but that was not one of them. So like we kind of left being like, no, we're not going to resign, like packed up all of our stuff into like a storage unit and did all this stuff. And then we were just like, got home. We were just like, and at that point I've got 2 kids and Felix, and like, we've got the consideration of Kita, which like, you don't get in late, right? So if you sign in August, you sign in July, you risk not having your kid in Kita. Because that is something I really tried to jerry-rig myself and it did not happen. So I had this like panic of like, if we don't re-sign there, then like I'm going to have a 2-year-old and an infant and I'm going to be, struggling. I mean,
you need help and that helpless feeling of like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how I can take some off my plate, but I literally do not have an option if he can't get into school somewhere.
Yeah, so we resigned there, and that actually ended up being such a great decision for us. The community in Wolfsburg is amazing. The girls are great. I had a lot of really good friends. Felix got into Kita. We had, like, it was all set up really well. That year before, and, like, the timing of this part of it is, like, very not, like, super clear because there were so many things. But Trevor got COVID. I think it was in the summer or was the end of the season before that, like, gave him myocarditis and also just, like, some, like, mental health things that just, like, brain fog and things that were, like, kind of, like, masked as physical symptoms, but they were mental. And they were, like, like, how is that all interconnected? All above my head, right? All I know is that, like, how like tightly connected like playing and like mental health are, right? So you're like trying to get one up and then the other tanks and then you're like kind of like stuck in this circle. So Trevor just like went through it and he was like having symptoms, like physical symptoms from the COVID, and I think like it's just like a cycle when then he was like having panic attacks, but thought it was because of the myocarditis. So we thought he was having like heart attacks, not heart attacks, plural, but he thought he was going to be like having a heart attack.
Yeah.
It took like months to figure out that they were panic attacks, right? That he was like having on the bench. But before we got to that point, it was rank. It was just like, I mean, like, and he said it was fine to say it, like you're just like you're just depressed. Or you're having like anxiety, like severe anxiety, in which like you're the only person that exists. So like I've got like a 2.5-year-old and a baby, and we're like abroad, and you've got friends, but when someone's like unwell, you're like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
and you're going through postpartum, and I get what you're saying. Like it's like your husband's kind of out of the count. Because he's having a hard time and you're trying to tend to him, to your kids, trying to have a happy mindset in a situation that's very difficult to get through.
Yeah, it was like pretty crazy. Like, I don't know why I'd still be upset about it, but it's not something that people talk about a lot of it,
Yeah.
Like a bit suffering in silence, even if you have friends, just because it's hard.
Yeah.
So that got to a point, and like I actually have like a friend who has like a similar situation where you have to get to a point where you're like, you have to wake the fuck up because like you're going to take us all down, right? Which is like such a hard thing to say to someone when they're going through something, right? Because like you're just empathizing, like you're walking on eggshells. And then at some point I remember like I was like sick and it was like he didn't even like know, like it was like out to lunch, right? I was just like, you've got to, like, we're all gonna go down here, like I can't do
I'm out.
Yeah, like I'm gonna, like, I love you but fuck this, like I'm unwell.
There's only
like,
so
much that moment where I was like, no, like I am not equipped to handle this. I am not a psychologist, I am not a therapist, I can't take care of everyone, and like you need to get help, and you need to get help now, which I think is like you have to get to a breaking point, and then he did, and that like changed everything. But you suffer like your game, like your hockey suffers a little bit of that, right? Because he's like walked out of a few games because he's like had panic attacks. I mean, it's just like the whole thing where you're like trying to perform and you're trying to survive.
Totally.
The whole thing. They're just like, it's such a cycle. It's kind of crazy. So that was like kind of, I feel like in the bigger picture where we were both started thinking like, maybe this is not going, the way we wanted it to. What did you want? Like, I don't know, like anyone like has something like in their head. We just kind of started being like, damn, this is hard. And I think that he really feels that, like the COVID just like kind of fucked him up. Like he's fine now. But I mean, like from a performance standpoint and like a mental health standpoint, it wasn't worth that. It wasn't worth it. But there were like sprinkled in other things. Like he had a double hip surgery in Finland. He had a knee surgery. He had like a freak other surgery, like all amidst this. So like 3 surgeries in the 3 years. It was just like the luck starts feeling like, or not, you're just like, this is not feeling productive. Like everyone's struggling. And then I was pregnant again.
Oh my God.
So, and that was like in the better part of that. Like we had kind of gotten out of it. And you don't really like decompress until you leave, So we, at that point, like after that year, knew we were not going back there. So we like packed up all of our stuff and went home. It might have been just like the weirdest off season ever, just because we were like in this weird spot where we're like, we want to go to a nice city. We're not sure. Like we were like willing to like make less money to go there, and like all sorts of things came up that were like kind of random. But at this point, we've got 2 kids and I'm pregnant. Yeah. And like we've got the dogs. We've got like,
which is anxiety.
Once you have 3 kids, it's so complicated.
I forgot you guys had the 2 dogs too, because we've talked about that. Like, holy hell, what were we thinking? Like, getting these dogs Europe wasn't even a thought when we got these dogs. And I'm like, well, we didn't really think going through.
Yeah, I mean.
To have kids, to be pregnant, to not know where you're going or what you're doing with your life, especially after having a season like that you feel so isolated, you feel so unhappy. And I honestly want to say thank you so much for seriously sharing that. I hope like there are going to be people that listen to this episode that truly are like so grateful for that, because it's hard because you don't want to be complaining or bitching to people that, it's like you might know someone for a few months and like you're like, we're friends, but I also don't want to kind of like unload onto you. And so you can feel very like, I can relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Like, and I think a lot of people get to that point mutually. Like for Charlie and I, it was kind of like, we were both feeling that way as well, like to get to that point of ending the Europe stuff. But I was definitely driving the ship, but he eventually caught up to me and we were both mutually like, what are we doing? Like, we are not happy with all of this. Yes, we're dealing with season after season. We're trying to be good parents. We're trying to be good partners to each other. And I feel like there was so much, like, I'm not trying to flip it on myself, but I'm just saying I can truly relate to what you're saying in so many ways. Like I'm listening to you.
I mean, it's like, he's kind of like, Trevor always knew he wasn't going to be the guy that played until he's 40. That was never what he wanted. He also like has had 3 hip surgeries. So like he knew that there was like, he had been given by like multiple surgeons, like this isn't going to last forever,
Yeah.
And like, so we always kind of knew, but I mean, that's obviously different than when it actually happens, So by the time we're like re-signing again, Felix is older, like to the extent where like, I really feel like he needs to be in a school. We had gotten some offers in the Dell that were like, it's hard when you like, it's hard to like cut it. It's hard to like think, hindsight's 2020. I mean, realistically, you just don't. So then we got an offer from Karpat, which is back in Finland. That was like just hard to say no to.
Mm-hmm.
And we had done Finland and like we liked the people in Finland, but like let's remind myself that like that was heavily strewn by like the fact that we had like best friends. Trevor was just on the phone with Kyle tonight. And those are the people that were there. Like we love Kyle and Shannon. They made the entire experience.
Yeah.
So like we just kind of like related Finland to that, not like they're there.
Right. It's kind of like your grounding blanket. Like my dog's growling. He hears your kids and thinks it's my kids are home.
It's absolutely terrifying. Scary. But so we were like, okay, so, and just look at the map. It is up there. Like, it is fucking north. Like you have to fly to Helsinki and then fly again.
Okay.
But they like made accommodations. They bought a house to put us in. They got a van. They like did all the things. And so I was just kind of like, a lot of these like small, where I was like, I'll go, like we can go to Austria and go to like a nice city. And they're like, you've got 3 kids, I was pregnant. Like we don't have room. We don't have apartments that fit 3 kids. We can't find that car. So that was kind of like, we were willing to take less, but they wouldn't take us because of our dynamic.
I want to talk about this for a second because I think that this is part of, I don't know if demise is the right word, but what the hell happened with Europe? Because it used to be all older families, older kids, people were there for so long. And now I feel like they try to get like the youngest, cheapest players possible because we have like Charlie's had interest from teams. And then like once they hear that we had 2 kids and 2 dogs, they're like, absolutely not. Like, or we were just getting these like low ball offers. We're like, we're not going to take this.
Exactly. So that was kind of where we were like, we're willing to take less.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, interested. And then like they'd find the situation and they'd be like, sorry. We just simply don't have that. I'm like, in the entire city of like, whatever, you don't have a single 3-bedroom apartment. I'm not asking for a 5-bedroom. I'm not asking for a bedroom for each of my kids. So when that offer came through, I was just like, you know what? So we took it.
Yeah. I think there's also like, what's that expression? It's like you're trying to take a round peg into like a square.
Yes,
like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many times where I feel like people are trying to force a situation to work when the team, it's almost like you can kind of, I'm sure you can attest to this, like stepping back and looking at it now, not in exactly this finished situation, but like looking at it and being like, some of this stuff is actually kind of a red flag that the team actually does not value the player or their family. Because if they're not willing to take us for what we are, then why are we trying to force we need a bigger living situation. Like we're not gonna.
Like, why am I the one that has to say this? Like why we went there obviously.
Yeah. Back to the.
I like dragged my mom with me. And when we got there, it was nice, right? I think it was July. It was like beautiful and nice. And there were not a lot. There was one import, Amelia. She was great. They were younger than us. I mean, like at this point, I have a 3-year-old, my kids are 18 months apart, then 2 years apart. So I've got a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and I am pregnant. So I'm not that much fun. Like, let's be realistic. Like, there's only so much she can do. Like, it's too many kids.
Yeah.
So I get there, and then like they had told me that they had figured out that they would help us figure out the school thing, and then they didn't. So once again, here I am, like friggin' on the internet. I'm like applying, I'm translating, I'm doing all this stuff. There's like one school I really want the kids to go to, and like I can't get anyone to answer. I'm emailing the team every day. I'm like trying to figure this out. I'm like, I've got to get at least Felix in school by the time I have this baby, because it's gonna be literally dark at 2 p.m. Like I cannot do this. Like I will not. Since Carpat's so far up, the travel's bad. So then I'm like, I'm gonna be here like all day with all these kids in the dark.
Daycare.
Yeah, so I like got them into a school, and it was like hard to do. And then I like went to drop them off, and like nobody spoke like any English, and like the class that Millie was in was like infants, and there was just like it was just like the whole thing was just like the wrong vibes. And like I was so used to keto where it was like wholesome, and you were like, I would love to transport the Wolfsburg keto back to the United States and send my kids there. This school, I was like so cute. If I was finished, great. I'm not. So I was just like, nobody was talking to Felix, this whole thing. So I'm like stressing myself out. Then I like go through this whole thing. I get him into the other school. And then like there had just been, you have those days when you're like alone and you're just like, oh no, like this is, like I'm 1 month in.
Yeah.
It's not good. I was just like, I have to put the kids like in 95 layers. It is dark. I'm in this like friggin' sliding door minivan. I am unwell. I'm just like, I am unwell. And I'm trying not to be like the biggest fucking Debbie Downer ever, because I did say to Trevor, like, I can do this. Because we did have this conversation where he's like, this is not going to be Wolfsburg. You're not going to be, it's not going to be the same. And
that pre-moment, you're like, you can get onto that. It's not going to be so bad.
Because I'm like, I've been to Finland. I've lived in Finland with a kid. I can fucking do this. I've done it. Like, we'll be fine. It'll be cool. I'll do all this cool stuff. Like, and then you get there and you're like, oh, no. This is it. Once I was in Finland the first time, I had nothing to compare it to. I'm like, cool, got Shannon, we're chilling. Go to Wolfsburg, and we're like doing fun stuff. The kids have like best friends. We're like hanging out every day after keto, having dinners. Like it's just like the ultimate girls club. We're all living in the same apartment complex. It's like what you would dream of as a mom. Like somebody has always got your back, and it's like wonderful. And then you go backwards, or in my case, like all the way fucking back. And you're like, oh shit, I have seen it.
Now we're stuck.
I can't unsee it. Like, because I had other girls on like the team when we decided to go there. They were like, yeah, I don't think I would go there. And I was like, I'll be fine. Been to Finland. Lived in Finland for 2 years, And this is not a rap on Finland. There are like great cities and places to play there.
Right.
My situation
totally
was not it.
To piggyback on that, I think that's always like sometimes when I say stuff about Europe, I'm like, if you're European and you're listening to this, it is not any sort of diss on the country, the people, the culture. It's not that. It's the fact that we are not from this country. Yeah. We are moving across the world. We don't have our family. We don't have our friend. Like the culture, yes, it is different than our own. And that's what makes it so hard. So it's like, that's the thing. It's not a diss on where you are. It's mainly just like, it's so foreign, and it can truly be very depressing to do that. So I get what you're saying. It's not.
As a country, like I love Finland. I love the country more than Germany. Like Helsinki is my favorite European city. I love it. Now we're like, it's winter break. We can't get anywhere because we have 3 days. And in order to get anywhere, we've got to fly back to Helsinki and then to somewhere else because you can't get anywhere from Oulu. So we're like feeling trapped. And, then there was just like a point, I think that was the break. I don't know what break it was. It's pretty early that we went on a train somewhere for the weekend. And I remember it was just like something about like being removed or like thinking about going back that I was just like, no. And Trevor was not having like problems, but that coach didn't speak any English. So he came from like a Canadian coach in Germany. The coach didn't speak any English to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the vibes, with the guys in the locker room, like the vibes with the coach, it was just like off. And so we were both kind of like feeding off each other in many ways. We were just kind of like spiraling. He's like, this is not good. I'm like, this is not good. Neither of us are happy. And we had been in that spot before and stuck it out. And this time we were like, I see other people leave and go somewhere else. Like that happens, right? People are just like, nope, made a mistake. Not that simple, but we're like, maybe this is not it. Like, how am I going to do this with another kid? Like, how am I, my mental health, how am I going to survive it here? And I was like, I'm not gonna make it here.
When you're in, because we've been in that too, of both kind of bringing each other down, that is a very tough spot to be in when you're in a foreign country. When you're both not happy about different things, it's hard to be able to give that support and uplifting to each other because you're both in such a negative headspace that it's every day. It's just a grind. And you're just like,
I was like, I just remember like trying to shift my perspective and be like, this is going to be fine. And then there would just be a moment where I would just like be alone and I would just be like, this is not fine. Like this, I have so long here. I can't. And I had no community, none. There was none. And like, not to say the girls were nice, super nice, but a lot of them were from there. Or like were coming back from other leagues to like retire at home, or they were really young guys. So there was not much. Everyone like had a life there. So I'm like, I'm going to be alone. Like I'm going to have an infant. I'm going to have these 2 kids. I'm going to be alone here. It's going to be dark. It's going to be 2 p.m. Like, it's not. So we were like, okay, we called Trevor's agent, and that shit's weird. It's weird to do what we did, not like from an outsider's perspective. It's weird for yourself, right? So the team had just like brought on a new GM maybe at that time, and he had ironically like called Trevor in because he was meeting with all the players, just like vibe check. And Trevor went in and was like, man, I don't think this is the place for me this year. And the guy was like, we'd love to keep you, but like we understand that this has been like a real shit show, and like we are happy to let you go. Not like a please leave, but like a if this is not for you. And like he had kids, he was like, then you can go. So then it was just like, once again, you're just like, this won't be that difficult.
Yeah.
So we're living there unemployed in this apartment for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Very nice of them. They were just like, do what you need to do, And then we still like, we're like, nothing's like really happening. Like, should we go? At this point, I'm pretty pregnant. Mm-hmm. So that's the pressure cooker, right? Other circumstances, we would have been like, let's just chill. Let's figure it out. Let's go here. Let's wait it out. So we're like kind of like not panicking, but we're like in this weird limbo. So we like went to Helsinki. We packed up all of our shit. We put it in a storage unit there. All of our shit, which we had shipped from Germany. When I mean all of our shit, I mean like a fucking tractor trailer. We had it internationally shipped because I didn't like want to rebuy all the baby stuff. We're going to be here for the year. Let's get our stuff.
Yeah.
Then we put it in a storage unit there. We go to Helsinki once again for like 2 weeks. We're just bopping around, unemployed. 2 kids, I'm pregnant, no medical care, just like flying by the seat of our pants, waiting for something.
Yeah.
There had been like a team in Allsvenskan that had reached out. We were just kind of like, no, we're not doing that. You just like,
yeah.
What is this? Once again. So we're like,
yeah.
But they offered to like match his salary, which was insane. Not saying his salary was insane, but it was an insane match from a team in the Allsvenskan. So we were like, kind of like, the option was to go home, both of us, with the kids. And then me stay, because at that point it was too late. If I was going home, I was not going to come back.
Yeah.
And like go home and wait, or sign this deal and stay together. Like, keep everyone together. And at that point, it was like, there was not an option in my mind where I was going to go home and have a baby by myself. Like with my kids, I was not going to do that. So I was like, we'll just go there. And then, like, this is the craziest. This year is really crazy. So we get there, and then they promise us this, like, apartment that they've supposedly bought. And for, like, 4 days, we're in a studio with the dog. We only have one dog this year. The other dog I left at home. And I'm pregnant, and I'm trying to figure it out. We move, once again, we move all of our stuff. It's now driven from Finland to Sweden.
The trick stuff that people say to get you to have it ready for you, and then you get there and they're like, so sorry, it's not ready. Let me put you.
I'm going to send you for this slideshow a picture of the car they gave us. They know that we have 2 kids and we're going to have another kid, right? It was the smallest car I have ever seen. And then they had like the audacity to put his number on it. Like it's branded as if like, then I'm like, I'm not taking this fucking car. Like, we don't fit in this car.
You're like, my pregnant belly doesn't even fit here alone.
You know, like we get out. We think we're meeting them at this apartment they've procured for us. We're meeting them at this loft studio in this goddamn car, pulls up with this number on it. And I am like, I'm going to literally.
You're like, we're getting on United later and I'm out of here.
Oh my God, I am freaking out. And I didn't ever like, once again, I'm going down this school route. I'm back at it. And I am just like, wow, how am I here? I'm going to a new hospital. I'm trying to figure out a new doctor. There's like 85 different languages. I have gotten none of the vaccine. I've got no glucose test. I don't even know, like maybe I had an anatomy scan in the US. I'm friggin' like free birthing out here. No clue what's going on. Luckily I'm like type F. So like I'm like, okay. Get there when we get there. Then we're like, so this is one of the things we did ask them. Health insurance, right? We have health insurance. No, we don't have health insurance. They don't have a school for the kids to go to, which they said they did. We're in a fucking VW cruiser. We're currently in a loft. I've got no health insurance and I've got no school for my kids.
I am having PTSD right now because this is making my blood pressure.
Yeah.
Like listening to this, I'm just like, this is so real though. This is so freaking real. Like this happens all the time. And people don't share these freaking stories. And that's why people get messages.
No insurance. I'm like, what am I going to do? And then like, I'm still trying to find a place for my kids to go to school. And I'm just like, it's not going. This time, it's not going. It's weird. I can't get anywhere. I like go to this weird Montessori school. And like, it's like truly Montessori because it's Sweden. But like everything is wood. Everything. And there's like no overhead lights. It's all like covered lamps. And like you romanticize Montessori until you're like, it was like Amelia Reggie. I was just like, this is actually weird.
It's like, how did he try to keep you afloat? Because it's like, it's so hard to.
I like think, I don't know if like what is that sound? I'm like, is somebody dying?
Is your husband fighting for his life during bedtime right now?
Like that sounds, I think so. I think they're making that sound intentionally, but it's quite scary. Yeah, I do feel like, I don't know. I can't even like, I went through so many emotions in that 18 months. I don't even know. Like when I got myself prepared mentally to like talk about these things, not like in a bad way, but I was just like, I don't even know like the chronological order. And there was so many things. And like, we haven't even retired yet, right? That's the craziest part. So at that point, I remember there just being a breaking point where I was like, I am not a good mom. I cannot tolerate my kids. I am losing my shit. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't parent this way. I am like screaming at my kids. I am like unwell, right? Because I'm like so stressed. I'm so bored. I have no friends. I have nothing to do every single day. Can't even go to the gym because I have nothing to do with my kids, right? So I'm like unhinged.
Your nervous system is on frickin' overdrive.
Freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And so at one point I just said to Trevor, I was like, I have to go. You know, we had been going back and forth. And I was like, I have to fucking go. I like called my mom that day and I was like, I need you to come here and I need to leave. Like I need to leave next week because I was 36 weeks pregnant. I was like, I need to get the fuck out. I cannot. Like, I have no health insurance. It was going to cost us like $12,000. I was like, I have no place for the kids to go to school. I can't be here and I have to go. And in that, so you're like kind of relieved, but at the same note, I had to make the decision to have a baby without Trevor, right? Because there was no chance that in December they were like, and like, at what point do you come back? And like, how long do you wait? And it wasn't possible. So I had to decide to like leave. And my house here was rented out and take my 2 kids and move into my parents' house, 36 weeks pregnant.
Yep.
With no health care in the United States either. So like, because I didn't continue it, right? So I've got to like come back, re-enroll, wait. Then this was like right before, this was like the week before Thanksgiving. And like I had my daughter on December 8th.
And was your husband able to be there or no?
No. So like I came back and like luckily, not like it becomes less relevant with more children, you know, but we just like kind of came to terms with it. Like there was no alternative that would have been good for anybody there, you know? So I left my dog with him. I like lied flying back, right? Because I'm like too pregnant to be flying. I've got 2 friggin' toddlers. And I like luckily got my kids into a school here. And I just did the damn thing with my mom. And honestly, like Trevor was my mom, like they were FaceTiming and like I have other kids. He's seen it. It's sad. Like, is it the saddest part of our journey? God, no.
Yeah.
Like that is like, and like maybe he would feel like a little, I don't think he does, but like obviously you feel like you missed out, but that was like the least traumatic part of that 18 months.
You had to make that. I mean, we were almost in that position when he didn't have a contract and I was like hella pregnant too. And I'm like, he's like, should we go over to Europe and like just wait for a car? I'm like, I am not going to Europe with no health insurance to wait for a car. I'm like, I'm sorry. So I had to get to that point where I said, I'm okay with giving birth without you. I've done it before. Do I want to do that? No. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. But you have to get to a point where you're like, I cannot, I mean, it's just like a line in the sand. Like, I'm done. This is what I'm doing. And you just have to figure it out and come to terms to it together. So I'm glad. I mean, like you said, with the third time around, it's less. First time, that's a little different because it's just all so new. But yeah, no, I respect that you made that decision because, I do think you hit a breaking point where you're like, I can't freaking do this.
It becomes different when you're dragging other people through the mud. And that's what, like, I can suffer. Do I want to? No. But, like, if I'm making my kids suffer, I can't. Like, that's where you knew, where I was just like, nope. Like, I pulled him out of that school in Finland. I felt guilty about that. He was like, liked it there. I was just like, I can't keep doing this. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's not about just us. It's not like, that's not fair anymore. So like, that's kind of like what was just like, I was just like, literally that day is also burned in my brain where I was just like, I am not being the mom that I want to be. And I've got to get somewhere where this is not the case. And like, they're better off with me being like a parent than forcing us to all be together and me being an absolute psycho.
No, I mean, that's so real for you to share that. And I know I can relate to that. Other people will be able to relate to that like 100%.
So then to chop off that year, then at the end of the year, like Trevor just got like, after the trade deadline or whatever, went to Norway. He came home at Christmas to meet Zara. So he met Zara, he was home for like 3 days. And then he went back to Sweden and then he went to Norway. Okay. Which he really enjoyed. And I actually took Zara to Oslo for like a week, which was really fun. And that was like just kind of a weird ending situation because like I went and kind of like, it wasn't like they were in this like the best living situation ever or anything, but Oslo was super cool. And we had always wanted a big city, right? Which we never got. And so I go out there and I'm just kind of like, ooh, I can see myself here. And it's like you have fucking amnesia, right?
Yeah.
No, Ellie, you're not going to like it there for 9 months with nobody else in the rain. Yeah. So I went and I was kind of like, I think probably for like a year at that point, Trevor's kind of like, kind of like feeling done. And I'm like, oh, we're fine. Because I don't know what the fuck we're going to do, you know? So I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like he went, and then we would like joke about it. That's where like maybe that's when when you're like both kind of like maybe this is the end, ha, and then you're like, wait, are we joking anymore?
Yeah.
It's a joke? I don't think we're joking.
So you obviously have gone through a lot. You've been through a lot. There's a lot of emotions. There's lots of highs and lows. So you just kind of agreed mutually, like, we're done? Or was it like a wishy-washy summer where you're like, if something comes along?
It was kind of just like hearing it out and then like maybe not, kind of being in this like weird spot.
Mm-hmm.
Do we ship our stuff back? What do we do? What are we doing? Neither of us have a job. Like, and then he was just like, I'm done. My body doesn't feel like, he doesn't want to play in limited capacity. That was it. Right? From like a take out the whole fucking dumpster fire. He was like, my body is done. I'm like, it does not feel like it's at peak performance. I'm not playing the way I want to play.
Right.
I'm not going to like grind out or like keep going down in leagues to just continue playing. He's like, I want to be able to like play with my kids. I don't want a hip replacement in 5 years. Like there's another part of that, right? To just like quality of life, where the like amount of like recovery he was doing before and after a game was like insane, just to be able to like keep going.
So you decided to retire. What did that look like for each of you after that
Weird
happened? Did you guys have like struggles with that? Question two, did you know what you wanted to do, either of you, after hockey? Because I think that sometimes can make the decision easier if you're like, oh, I have my nursing and I can go nurse or be a teacher.
Yeah. So no, for us, like you talk about it and you think about it, but like nothing's something until you're trying to do it yourself, right? So Trevor had always been interested in like coaching. That had like been always like what he wanted to do. He was like super interested in that forever. That was like what we kind of were like, that's what we're gonna do. What was I gonna do? I have no clue. Like I have a bachelor's degree in hospitality business administration that I've done literally not a single thing with. Nothing. I have not had a legitimate job. Like I've done like jobs in college and like silly jobs. Like a real job? No. I never. Like I didn't have one. I did like jobs. I'm not saying like I haven't worked a day in my life, but like
yeah, I get
like
it.
legitimate job
Career.
to put on my resume, a career?
Yeah.
Fuck no. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because we went straight over.
Yeah.
And like that's just what I was doing.
Yeah. You couldn't really. Yeah. And maybe you just don't know either, it's like.
We got back and like he like went into like looking into the coaching thing. And that's also not as straightforward. I want to be a coach. Like, okay, well, that's like getting a job playing hockey. Everyone who retires wants to be a coach. Oh, and like some guys didn't make it younger. So like they are getting those jobs because they've been coaching youth hockey on the side, or they don't have 3 kids, so they can make $30,000. That's what people aren't getting. You take these jobs, 95% of them, and they're offering you $30,000. I'm not bluffing. That is it.
Yeah.
So and then they're like, come move across the country to make $30,000. And I'm like, we cannot do that. And like for years, like that's not like a 1 year suffer and then you'll get bumped up. Like I can't take $20,000, even $50,000 pay increments on $30,000 with 3 kids. And I don't want to move. Like we just got back here. I don't want to
do this
go.
again.
Like,
yeah.
Simultaneously, my cousin, her husband also plays hockey, ironically. At the time, he was in the States. Now he's in the KHL. But we have always like been doing like exercise stuff together. She has her master's in exercise science, and we're just like very close. So we had been like kind of brewing this idea on the side. Meanwhile, I went through like 900 career trajectories on my head where I'm just like, I guess I could do this or that or maybe this, but I have no experience. And I don't really want to go back to school. And I've got 3 kids, and Trevor just got offered a job for $30,000. Shit's weird. And we've got a mortgage now, like a for real one, because our house had been rented out, and school is $2,000 a month a kid. And I'm like, and we've got a problem.
Yeah.
Because like, you just don't like, you know, when you're abroad with kids, your kids go to Kita and you spend a few hundred at most a month, and you're living La Vida Loca, right? Hanging out, just like you're going to the gym, you're going downtown, you're getting coffee.
Yeah.
And that's totally it, right? Because there's not really that much else you can do.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's wonderful. And then you come home and you're like, wait, I have to pay a ton of money to send my kids to school, because that's what I'm used to, right? I'm used to my kids like going to school, and that's what they're used to, in fairness to them.
Yeah. And it's
But
structured.
now I'm like, can I justify that?
Yeah.
Because what the fuck are either of us doing? I
Mhm.
don't, you know, we're at home because we don't have jobs.
Yeah.
But like, I want to send my kids to school because that's what I'm used to. So it was just like really weird. And none of my kids at that time were school age. So you could say like public school. No, well, I've got a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, like a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an infant. So like that's all paid school.
Yep.
And that's what you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Really weird, because you just have to shift everything.
The money stress is so real. And again, appreciate you bringing that up, because I mean, I don't even think like I've really gotten super into that on the podcast, but it's so real. It's like, you're like, I feel like even for us, just like coming home in the summer, like Charlie does real estate in the summer, and like that has helped offset like some of that stress. But it's like, he's coming home for the summer and he's grinding all summer long so that we're okay, because we don't know if we're going to get a contract for the next year to go overseas. So like, we're both freaking stressed out of our minds. Like, where are we going to go? Like, are we going to get something? Like, it's like that stress, even like you're talking about retirement, but I'm just saying like relatability. It's like the money stress of like, what's next? Like, this could be over any point. Like, something might just like not come through, or like maybe you get a career ending injury, and like, what is going to happen? So like, that is so real for so many people.
Just like you're a bit in like la la land, where it's like, you probably have a house at home. I have a house here. Someone else is paying for it when I was gone, right? So I'm paying for my mortgage 3-4 months out of the year. I'm like, you know, like in Germany in particular, groceries are like cheap. I'm not paying for school, and we're making money, like good money. And then you come back and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're not prepared.
Yeah. So what did
like,
you guys find out?
Every situation is different, but like it took Trevor 9 months to like figure out what the fuck to do. And it is a stressful 9 months. And about every month and a half, we're like, should we just go? Should we just go play? Should we, you know, do what? And like, you're just like, yeah, should you go? What do we, you know, like, we're going to run out of money, or we're going to run out of time. I don't know what's happening here. And then we were kind of still in that coaching thing. And like, then I decided to open this gym with my cousin. And then that was just kind of like, came to that point where I was just like, this is what I wanted to do. And I was like, I'm not prepared to like sacrifice myself again. You know, like it was so fresh to like think there was like one job and we'd have to like move to the out west somewhere. And I was just like, I love you, but
yeah,
I'm not prepared to enter into a sacrificial position again for the health of our relationship. Like, I just can't do it. And I can't do it where it's like, I'd probably have to get a job, but like, what?
You have 3 little kids under 4. Like, how could you have a job? I mean, it's like you're basically would be paying for childcare at that point. For what?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like, getting a job just to get a job. It's like, well, it's not that easy, because like if you haven't worked in
everyone, if you're like 20 and you think this is in your future, go become a nurse. Someone was like a MRI tech or a dental hygienist, or go do something that you can come back and do in the summer and make some money and retain your sanity and feel like a real human. And then when you retire, you walk right back into it. I'm like, God damn, not everyone wants to be a nurse, but like those jobs are the jobs. Everyone's like, I want to do something online. No, like before you go do yourself a fucking favor.
Yeah.
And do something that you can walk back into. That is my thing. Because when your husband's like, I thought I was going to do this and I'm not sure, or that makes way less money than I thought, then you're like, hey, I've got it. A little bit.
when you both don't know what you want to do, that is a very uncomfy situation to be in, because it's like, do we want to force ourselves to do something we don't want to do just to like get by? Like, yeah, it's just the job that you're going to get for not working for 10, 15 years is going to pay for your kids to go to preschool. Like, it's like, yeah. So it's tough. It's like, well, what do you do?
And then you just got like this weird FOMO. And like the grass is always greener, right? And like I almost feel like for this in particular, it's almost like kind of like just like get off Instagram, right? Because you're like, I made the right decision, right? And then you're like seeing people post the things that were the best part of it. Or like your friends that are like, most of them are still playing, right? Like, because as in terms of like the people we know, we retired fairly early. You know, like a lot of these guys are like Trevor was 32, 33.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys are playing till like 37 or 38 or, you know, and so you see it and you're like, did I make the right decision? And you know, but it's like giving birth. You have amnesia.
Yeah. You're like,
you walk away from it. You're like, you forget the torture, not every year, not all the time,
right,
that you went through.
My friend Maggie, I've had her on the podcast a couple times. Maybe you've listened to an episode. Like we're such like real talkers with each other, which I appreciate. Like we're just, you know, it's nice. Like we'd always talk abroad and stuff. And like she wound up, or not retiring, sorry. He wound up signing. So he's been in Russia, like he's been Slovakia, all over. And like they kind of decided, just like us, they wanted to stay and play in their hometown. So he's playing in the SPHL right now in Alabama. And we're here. So, and we're both like living in our hometown. So like, it's funny because we're like literally doing the same exact thing. And she texted me and she's like, I think it was over the November break. And she's like, I'm seeing everybody's November break stories. Like, yeah, how are you feeling? Like, do you miss it or whatever? And I'm like, honestly, like see that. And like, I do get like a little bit of like, that looks so fun. Like I miss traveling. But then I remember I'm like, that is like 3 days out of the entire hockey season. And people are like posting this, like they're traveling, you know, but it's like when you're a mom, you are living a completely different European experience than when you're not a mom. Like you can't just like last year, I'm like, I can't just like hop on the train and go into London and go do like a workout class and go get a coffee and hang out and have lunch all day and then come back. Like I have kids. So like, yes, we're in a cool location, but like, I can't really take advantage of it because I have, which I'm so blessed I wouldn't change it, but it's like, it's not the same. And so it's just going back to what you're saying, Maggie and I were like, no, like I don't really miss it because everybody's just posting their highlight reel. And I know there are people that do love it. And like, maybe this isn't for you, this conversation, but.
And like, this is not judgment.
No.
But some people, I'm like, are you real? Because like, do you not? I've just like, some people I'm just like, I guess like I'm not prepared. Like my whole life isn't Trevor's career. It isn't. And like, I think that like maybe that sets me apart from a lot of the people in this lifestyle. But like, I don't live to serve. Sorry. Like, I love you. But it got to a point where I was like, nah, not doing that. You know? And I don't think everyone is that way. Like, I think some people are like, this is it. Like, this is what we're doing. This is why, I don't know, I'm here. I don't know. It's not me. Like, I'm not, I think it's interesting when you meet people like that because I'm just like, it's just a different perspective. And like, not everyone is like that. But also, it's like, are you either lying to yourself or is that genuine? Because like some people, I'm just feeling like they genuinely think all the time that this is like the most blessed and fruitful. And I'm just like, well, there are parts of this that fucking suck for everybody.
So I do think that there are people that they're trying to romanticize it to maybe make themselves feel a certain type of way. And that's not to say, because I did just talk to someone who loves living over in Europe and they're so happy there. And so I think there are people like that. But I also think it's very circumstantial because if you are not, you know, getting maybe the best offers, the best towns, the best, you know, there's not anyone you connect with, you're in a different season of life. Like those are all factors that make a huge difference on whether or not you're happy.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, like you said, it's just you get to a point where you're like, I cannot, when you have kids, I cannot sacrifice my own happiness anymore. Like if I am miserable, everybody's going to be miserable, and it's
Yeah.
just not going to be good.
To add on to your point you just made, is like Trevor did play for the Stingrays for like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Like they called him and we were just like, sure, pay for part of our mortgage, and then like that's when he knew. That was it. He was like,
We're done. Yeah.
he played one game and he was like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm done. And I think that gave him the peace. He played the game like knowing he was going to retire.
Yeah.
I like kept fighting for like the one season where we were like, this will be our last season. And he was like, we don't need that. We
Right.
know.
Right. We don't need to end on like a high note or whatever sometimes.
Yeah, he's like, because there's a chance we end on another dumpster note. And I don't think we can survive that.
It'll do you in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Retirement sounded like it was a big adjustment. You guys are figuring out your new lives.
Now it's good.
Okay.
That's just, like, now it's good. Like, we're in a good spot. It's just like, you can say all you want about what you're going to do. And like, obviously, if you have a nursing degree, like, obviously, you just go be a nurse. Very different.
Yeah.
Or like, if your husband has been preparing and like, doing what Charlie's doing to an extent, then like, yeah, maybe that'll be a bit easier. But there are like a lot of people that are just like, I'm just going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've never, for the most part, these guys have never done that.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know what it's like. You can get that can get blown up. It's just like everything you thought was just going to be like, this is my plan, my 5-year plan. Well, can't get the job. Or, like you can't make, that job doesn't make any money. And it's not like a negative thing. It's just hard.
People talk about they don't talk about things a lot when they're going through it. I've noticed in the hockey. It's like after the fact. Looking like, oh, we're in a good place now. But like, you don't see people going through the turmoil of this and like the getting to that decision, So like, I do like that you kind of took me on that path with you to like describe like how you ultimately got to the.
Sometimes I feel like someone could just say like, hey, look, I could play. We could keep doing this, but it's just like not feeling right anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's hard, like I said, because so many people play for so long,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're making good money and like things are paid for. And like life is like, not easy, but life is, like figured out a little bit. This is what you're doing. This is what you've committed to. So you're kind of blowing up your own shit, right? Because he could have kept playing.
Yeah.
And that's when it's hard, is when you have to say like, no, I'm no longer going to consider this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing if you go to play another season and you got no offers, then you're like, well,
that answers.
I'm retiring,
right?
Because I have no option.
Totally.
When you got an option, it's just like a different game, and it's way harder to walk away.
So my question for you is, for someone that's listening and very much relating to this and maybe in the thick of it or about to go through this, what advice would you give to them now being on the other side of this dark gray cloud area?
I mean, I feel like it's so unique to like the way you've set yourself up, but like, it's just like, I think you just have to be, I would say like, I would prepare for a year. I would prepare, like, obviously you don't always know if you're going to retire, like in our situation, or if you get injured but I would say like that stuff that you think is just going to like happen, like I would look into it, like actually like reach out and like do stuff and be proactive. So you don't feel like you've just like plopped yourself at home and you're like, you have to like consider those things. And like, if we had like really like done some more deep diving into that and like asked questions of like other people who are coaches and things like that, then we would have like done something different from the get-go, and we would have wasted less time, because that's a big part of it. And that's like something people who want to be, and I'm sure people who have come on his who are coaches' wives have maybe said that, like that is not like, it's very similar. Mm-hmm. It's like a very similar game there. Mm-hmm. My advice would be to like maybe talk to someone else who's gone through it. Trevor said he's willing. I think like for the guys, it's harder. It's hard to like see someone go through that for myself, but I think it was like really hard for him to go through this, like, what am I doing?
It's like identity crisis.
Yes, from being the supporter and like, and then just like dropping off that and like, then like facing rejection and facing a massive salary cut and starting over is hard. And like Trevor said to me before this, like anyone can reach out to him, you know, if like, especially guys going through it or like guys going through the other stuff he went through. Like that's like, he's at this point in retrospect, an open book. Because like we come out the other side of it, you know?
Really sweet, yeah.
I wish I had like more succinct advice.
No, but I think that's tangible.
I think it's just like, I think there's more like advice that can be done for people who are entering. But like, if you've like gone, like come into it, like a little bit like I myself did, like when you come out of it, it's like, you kind of just got to figure it out because you can't make stuff appear on your resume. You know, you can't add job experience that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a weird territory. So, and I think like people are in all different, you know, situations. And like I said, hindsight is 2020. But like if I had heard someone else say like, hey, maybe like that first year when you guys don't have kids, like go start a career. So you have something, or like go back to school to do something meaningful, even if you might not be doing it right now. So then when this is done, like you have that done. When you, because like that's what people plan, right? They're going to go, they're going to like have kids, they're going to have a family, and then they're going to come back. Like if I had known that, if someone had told me that, honestly, I might have done something differently. Because like now I'm in my 30s, I have 3 kids. That is way harder to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I mean, that's telling someone to go back to school before they, you know, but like, honestly, I wish that's something I had done.
No, I think that's good advice too, because I think when people are entering this lifestyle, they also too can feel a little bit lost of like, you know, now I just feel like I'm kind of like following my man, but it's like, yeah, I think that's good advice it's practical. And I think maybe you don't think, yeah.
Everyone wants to like find this like unicorn online job.
Yeah.
And like, get paid and work remotely and travel. It's like, you know what you should really do is just take a year and don't go and do something for yourself. So when this is over, you've done that.
What is your husband doing now?
He's in software sales. So kind of like he would like say something more complicated than that probably. He worked for my like brother originally. So he like got a job with my brother. My brother owns a company. And then just kind of like transitioned into that. And now he's like crushing it and he's super happy and like in a position that he probably thought like, you know, maybe a year ago that he would have never wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the other thing is like just being open-minded
to
to that. And once again, I think that's where something where it could be very useful to like talk to someone who's retired, who's like in a different career path than you maybe imagined yourself in.
Right.
Because there's like so many options that they just don't know because they've done the one thing their whole life.
Well, I feel like there honestly was so many like good nuggets in here. And if anything, like I truly just relate to you and your story so freaking much. You have no idea. So thank you for coming on and sharing this with people. I also just want to say, I feel like you're a really good resource for people to reach out to if someone is in the thick of it and wants to talk, or even if it's, you're not retired, but you're in the thick of it with Europe and like need someone to chat with. It just seems like you would totally understand any hardships that one might be going through. So for those that might want to follow you and follow what you're up to now, because I know you opened a business, where can they find you?
It's peachlab.charleston.
Okay.
On Instagram. And it's me and my cousin, also a hockey gal.
Who's your cousin?
Bizzer DeHagen. Well, Duzak now.
Okay.
She's from Long Island. Her husband's in Russia now. And she's here. And she's pregnant. So we're like living parallel lives. So she's here with me in Charleston. Her husband's in Russia. She's pregnant. It's just like, just repeating cycles, you know?
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I'm glad you guys have each other to lean on during this time. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with all of us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.